Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. I record this at 2:30 in the afternoon on Sunday, November 2nd. I just got done doing an introduction video with Shauna Ristic. Shauna is a woman who underwent an NDE when she was a teenager, which really blew open her spiritual gifts. She is now a spiritual coach as well as an intuitive and a certified massage therapist, amongst many other things that she does. That video went up at 2 o'clock today on Sunday, November 2nd. You can view it on my channel. In the description section and in my posts section, I have her YouTube page, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. If you have the opportunity and you want to hear more what she has to say, please do subscribe to her YouTube channel or those other social media platforms and give a listen to what she has to say. I hope the introduction video gives you a wonderful background on her, how we met, and we answer some questions at the latter part of the video, sort of what's going on generally in the United States. Additionally, Shauna will be doing a live broadcast with me this upcoming Tuesday, November 14th at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Please join us. I'll do tarot card readings. She'll do intuition readings on your questions. One of the things that seems to have intrigued people is that she can read pets. So if you have questions regarding your fur babies, join us. If you go to the posts section on my page, and all you have to do is click on my little lighthouse icon to go to my page, and you'll see a bunch of submenus that have like videos, playlists, etc. And further off to the right side of it, you'll see one that says posts. If you go there, you'll see a giant disembodied head of Shauna. It's a great picture of her, by the way. And if you comment in there, especially if you want a pet reading or a reading on your animal, post up in there with a little bit of the story of what you want. When I was talking with Shauna today, she mentioned, I'd shown her the post, and she's like, oh, I want to read on this person who had a rescue dog that looked like it had been abused. And she was saying, I can connect with the animal, but if I can get a picture, it's a lot easier to connect with them. And that way, if you put it up on the post section and I respond to you asking you to email me a picture of your animal in question, we'll queue those up so that when we start the live, I've already emailed the pictures to Shauna, and we can look at the picture of your pet and hopefully get a much more accurate representation of what's going on. Okay? And I think there's a lot of intuitives out there. Not maybe not so many reading on pets, and I think that's going to be a big component. We can do loved ones too, political questions, anything's available. Okay, I'm really looking forward to this. I like Shauna a lot, and I think you'll like her too. This reading is going to also be about people that like things a lot. I did a video on JD Vance and his wife Usha today, and it's doing extremely well. On the Twin Tarot channel, Gary and I did a reading on JD Vance and Erica Kirk. This whole thing with Turning Point. What I'm seeing happening here, and if I can figure it out, it can't be too difficult, right? I think we're seeing Donald Trump. His health is declining, and it's been declining for several months now, as well as the Epstein files scandal that's about to explode on the scene. And the power base behind the Republicans are preparing for a transition of power from the Trump administration to the JD Vance administration. And I think what we saw recently with JD Vance and Erica Kirk is another stepping stone indicating this transition is happening sooner rather than later. Going through a timeline, Trump gets into the White House, and he promptly staffs his cabinet with loyalists. Now, the reason why you want to do that is not because of their ability to do the job or kiss your butt. It's to protect you from the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment would be brought up by the vice president to remove the president from power, and you have to have the majority of the cabinet supporting you. I believe it's the majority. Let me double check that. Gotta love Google. The question was, for the 25th Amendment, does it have to be a unanimous cabinet? No. A cabinet vote under Section 4 of the 25th Amendment does not require unanimity. It requires a majority of the cabinet along with the vice president. This majority, at least half the cabinet members plus the vice president, must formally declare the president unable to discharge duties. They inform Congress in writing that the president can't do his duties. If the president disputes this declaration in a written statement, the vice president and the cabinet have 4 days to reaffirm their position to Congress. If the dispute continues, Congress must decide. A 2/3 vote in the House and Senate is required to declare the president unable to serve, and the vice president continues as acting president. Oh, aren't we in for a good time? Oh, goodness. I didn't realize that last part about going to Congress with 2/3. All right, so here's what we got going on. Trump goes for his health physical, and they discover there's problems. Right after that health physical in April and May, Pam Bondi calls Trump in there, and now we got the Epstein files, and Trump's name is all over the Epstein files. Kash Patel has had thousands of agents go through there and flag all the areas where Trump is named. So Trump says he hasn't heard anything about it. Pam Bondi met with him to tell him what was going on. That's May. So right now you can start to see where the power brokers behind the scenes, that's the machination that's starting, because it's like, oh, not that they didn't know, but Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have been running and saying how they're going to release the Epstein files and this, that, and the other thing. And now they find out maybe just how dire the situation is. Trump's going crazy with his tariffs. The economy is going up and down. People are manipulating the market, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then at Labor Day weekend, Trump disappears for 5 days. Goes radio silent. Extremely unusual for him. JD Vance comes out and says, if the president's fine, but I'm ready to step in whenever I'm needed. They're setting a signal that something happened. There were rumors that Trump went to Walter Reed, and that Melania was seen at Walter Reed. We can't find anybody to back it up. It could have happened, and it's not being reported on. It's being squelched, or maybe it didn't happen. Regardless, Trump comes back, and we've seen, like on the 9/11 event, he's sitting there, and you see the right side of his face is drooping, which indicates that maybe he had a stroke on his left side, because that's an indication of stroke, is your face drooping like that. We've seen that it's become harder and harder for him to string together a coherent thought. It's been a while since he's been able to do it, but it's even harder now. He went back to Walter Reed for a follow-up visit, his annual exam. Well, he had already gone for an annual exam. And now they say, oh, no, it's a follow-up visit. Oh, but of course, before that, we saw that he had swollen ankles, which was explained away as it's just chronic venous insufficiency. It's no big deal. He just had a physical saying he was in perfect physical health. And he was 6'3" and 215 pounds, which tells you right away you can't trust anything else in that physical exam. So we know that he's had problems with his ankles. You see the bruising on his hand, which would be indicative of IV insertion, which could be used to put diuretics in him, as well as he's on, I believe he's on statins for his high cholesterol because of his diet, and he's also on another drug which would be used to help prevent strokes. Acinamide or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the drug off the top of my head. And so there's a lot of speculation that he has congestive heart failure, he's had strokes, and then there's the Alzheimer's that runs in his family. He has the second Walter Reed visit. So now I guess it's a semi-annual visit. And again, the doctors on the surface of the letter says everything's fine, but they mentioned that he had some imaging done and his conditions are stable, which implies they weren't stable at some point. And the White House is denying everything until Trump just blathers out that, oh, he had an MRI when he was at Walter Reed the last time. There's no reason to do an MRI on a perfectly healthy person. The scan of the brain. What are you looking for is the question. And then he says he took an IQ test recently, which was actually the Montreal Cognitive Test, which you give to somebody who either had a stroke or who's suffering from early, dementia, as you're trying to ascertain their cognitive abilities. And he didn't refer to it as he referred to it as a cognitive test, but he called it an IQ test, which I am assuming that the doctors and his people around him told him it was an IQ test and not a test for dementia or Alzheimer's or something along those lines. Otherwise, he wouldn't take it. He'd be obstinate. And he said it was a difficult test. That tells you everything you need to know about that, right? So what happens next? Charlie Kirk is killed. Erica Kirk is going to keep the foundation going. JD Vance, flies Charlie Kirk's body to Arizona. He's with the widow. We have the Charlie Kirk Day funeral event / rally. JD Vance has been on the Charlie Kirk Turning Point podcast instead of, I don't know, doing the VP job, whatever that is. And now recently he was at a Turning Point USA event where he is greeted adoringly by Erica Kirk on stage. You need to see the pictures to really understand how it's like, wow, you two maybe need to get a room. And and JD, aren't you married with children? And you're doing this in front of a bunch of cheering groypers? That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. What I see happening here is Trump's health is deteriorating. Mike Johnson is not letting the House of Representatives go back into session because now they're gonna have to face a discharge vote to release the Epstein files, which is going to be the undoing of Donald Trump and a bunch of wealthy, powerful men in the U.S. As much as a fully redacted file can bring people down. So I think the GOP is getting ready to transition Trump out. JD Vance is the VP. He would be the next in line. JD Vance is unpopular, uncharismatic, and he doesn't have a following. He was put in that VP spot most likely by Peter Thiel. Trump, I don't think Trump wanted him, and you do that so that Project 2025 can advance, which it's been doing. JD Vance is ambitious and a chameleon. He will shapeshift to whatever he needs to fulfill his ambition, and his ambition right now is to be in charge as the president of the United States, at least as I see it. But he doesn't have a base, so he's not going to be able to wield any power over Congress. Trump can. For whatever reason, he's got compromise on these guys. He intimidates them. MAGA is a violent, radical base, and he threatens them with that. So he keeps these spineless people in line and in check. If Trump's gone, MAGA goes with him. What the power brokers want is they want JD Vance to sort of take over MAGA, take over Charlie Kirk's following, so that he has the army underneath him, the fanatics underneath him, to continue to bully Congress. And by having Erica Kirk up there looking adoringly at JD Vance and saying, yeah, nobody will replace Charlie, but there's so much of him in you. It's so freaking obvious what they're trying to set up here. If JD Vance has a group of followers, a large group of followers that are very vocal, he can then take these Trump loyalists in the cabinet and convince them that it's okay to vote for the 25th Amendment and give that to Congress. All you have to deal with is Trump at that point, and how do you get him out the door? I think we will hear more and more about Trump's mental health or physical health deteriorating as they try to build this narrative that JD Vance should take over, and they try and build up JD Vance's army, as it were. So look forward to this over the next month or two as they start trying to transition out of Trump and into JD Vance. They've got a tight timeline because very soon Congress has to meet. They only pass a continuing resolution through November 21st. And if that date comes and goes, Congress has to come back in to propose a new continuing resolution and vote on it, at which point the new congresswoman from Arizona gets sworn in the discharge position to release the Epstein files now has to come to fruition, has to be voted upon. And when that happens, all hell's going to break loose. So the Republicans have about 3 weeks to either get the government open and to keep that, or, well, they've got 3 weeks before the Epstein files vote is going to happen. That's what's going to happen here. 3 weeks left, folks. And then all hell breaks loose. And in those 3 weeks, they're going to have to figure out a way to make JD Vance palatable to the American people. Or not the American people, to enough people that he's now the face of the Christian nationalist movement in this country. But will they accept him is the question. They love Trump. They don't love JD. Is Erica Kirk and this whole thing, is this going to be enough to push JD over the top? Come on down. Entertainment purposes only. What's the energy of JD and MAGA? Foundational reading is the King of Pentacles. All right. The man of wealth and influence. To me, this is more Peter Thiel than JD Vance. But JD Vance wants to be Peter Thiel when he grows up. And then you're crossed with the Five of Wands and the Eight of Coins underneath. Okay. I think the American oligarchs here understand the chaos that's about to be unleashed. They've been making money hand over fist with crypto scams and manipulation of the market through Trump. They want to hold on to their money and their gains, their tax breaks that Trump gave them. But they know that there's a lot of chaos coming. JD may be their savior on that one. I was asking, kind of how is MAGA going to accept him? We're starting with a little bit of background with Peter Thiel and the oligarchs here. In the past, the Sun card, they've had the opportunity. They got JD Vance on board. They got him into the White House. They got their tax break. They're getting everything they want. But I think they were expecting Trump to last longer than he is. And no sooner do I say they were expecting Trump to last longer than he does, do I get the current situation of he's not going to make it to the finish line. They have to transition. The king is dead. Let's bring on the new day. They right now are looking at getting JD into that position. They're talking behind the scenes on the financing of it. How are we going to do this? JD needs an army. Trump was successful because he had an army of violent people. How do we get JD to get that same thing? The lesson to be learned is the Seven of Swords. This isn't going to be as easy as they thought it was going to be. They stole an election to get Trump in and JD Vance in place. But they're not on the timeline that they wanted. And you're not going to be able to steal. And it could be, can they steal Charlie Kirk's followers to support JD? There's skullduggery going on in the background here. Outcome is the Seven of Wands. They're putting, basically, they don't have another option. They have to put their money on JD Vance. And he's far from a sure thing here. Okay, so instead of getting what I was asking, what I'm getting is how the oligarchs are viewing the situation. JD Vance's power base isn't with the common person. It's with the tech bros. And the tech bros' desire to run this country. JD Vance, again, he's a chameleon. He will do whatever it takes to get into a position of power. Will MAGA, little four-carder now, will MAGA support JD Vance? They like Trump. Will MAGA support JD Vance. Seven of Swords. Same thing as the... I don't think so. Two of Wands, Ace of Cups, Five of Coins. They may be able to get some. I just don't think so. This is the card of sneaking off in the night. He doesn't evoke the passions. Trump does. Under Trump, they're the big happy family. You know what I think this is saying? You know how and it was also in this card was in this position, the lesson to be learned. If Trump sneaks off, he still controls the passions. Even his memory leaves him, he still controls the passions of people. It's like he's their dream. Trump is the cult leader. He's the dream. And the cult's not ready to look forward past that. Plus, there's stuff, again, we're going to have a problems with the economy. And people are going to be worried about getting their meals and paying their the bills that they need to pay just to survive. It's almost like when it comes time to support JD Vance, the passion isn't there because the crowd is looking the wrong way. They're not looking at JD Vance, the leader. They're looking at like, holy crap, I just lost my job. I can't get SNAP benefits. I'm barely getting by on unemployment. I've got the rent due. I've got my truck payment due. I've got my healthcare costs just shot up through the roof. I don't, I'm going to have to not pay bills. It's like I'm going to have to not make my truck payment or my mortgage payment so I can at least pay the food bill and the utilities bill so that the house I'm not paying at least stays heated during the wintertime. Things are going to get difficult really fast. And I think that's the problem that they're going to run into is that there's a head coming here between all of this. Does JD Vance start the process of the 25th Amendment against Donald Trump? Eight of Swords, stuck, restricted. Why? Page of Swords, he's outed. He gets out when he starts the process. Oh God, look at this. First off, swords are about intellect, so we have intellectual problems here. Eight of Swords is about restriction. You feel trapped even though you're not trapped. Page of Swords is a lack of skill. Enthusiasm, but maybe lacking in skill. Low energy is spy in the camp, whistleblower type thing. I think JD gets outed of what he's intending on doing. And we got the Four of Swords. So it delays it's like what he needs to do is being delayed. He wants to do it. It's part of the plan. The plan's not ready to happen yet because somebody messes it up. In the past, you got the emperor. Donald Trump has been ruled as a king and an emperor by the Supreme Court. And it's because of his force of personality, amongst other things, that got him into the office right now. And this king does not give up power easily. Current situation is the Four of Cups. Will he get the 25th Amendment? Trump is not making things easy because he can say no, and now you have to rely on 2/3 of Congress. Congress may not be ready to vote on this yet. Now you have to get Congress involved in here. And there's the interesting one. I was wondering if something like this was going to show up. Overarching energy is the Six of Swords. What happens if Trump leaves? What happens if you start the 25th Amendment process, Trump says no, and then flees the country? President in exile type of thing. And Sean and I talked about this in the reading that went up today, and I used an analogy. It's like Trump farting in the room and then going to a different room. And while everybody's trying to determine who farted, Trump's in another room on the other side of the building saying, it wasn't me, I'm over here. You guys sort it out over there. And all the chaos that ensues as they try to figure out what they're going to do next while he's protected several rooms away, denying everything. Colorful analogy. Yeah. Yeah, I think they want to start the 25th Amendment process. Congress is not excited. Trump leaves. Maybe Trump's, he goes overseas and doesn't want to come back, type of thing. Or they're afraid to leave Trump, abandon him. And all sorts of, there's going to be so much chaos going on in Congress over this. And amongst Trump supporters, supporters of the GOP, etc. Out comes the 10 of coins. And meanwhile, the legacy is being tarnished as the Republicans tear themselves apart. The oligarchs will eventually calm things down through the force of lots of money to PACs. The oligarchs will get their way because they will buy their way. But they are going to have to spend a lot of money to get 2/3 of the folks in the House and the Senate to support any type of 25th Amendment issue. And Trump loyalists are going to fight him the whole way. It's going to be pandemonium. It's going to be absolute pandemonium in the White House when this is all happening. And I don't know. And again, JD Vance, I don't think gets the support. He doesn't have the popular support because MAGA's too busy trying to survive to worry about JD Vance. He ain't their cup of tea. Oh, God. What do I want to ask? Does JD Vance get in? One card just flipped over. As I said, the word does. Does. And we get the High Priestess as the foundation of this read. Does he get in? We'll see. Let's see what the secrets are that's happening. Got the Fool card, new starts. 4 of Coins, holding on tightly. Page of Pentacles, the Death card. I think he does. Or there's going to be a transition to a new leadership, but it's what I think is happening here is information that's been held tightly is now coming out. This is probably your Epstein files. And the people that have been holding those secrets are no longer holding those secrets. This is going to be chaotic. I don't know any other way to put it. It just looks like pure chaos by the Republicans, by delaying, shutting down the government, refusing to release the Epstein files, having Trump's health decline, trying to build up JD Vance. It's like they're creating this perfect storm of chaos that is ultimately going to be their undoing. Because they don't want to face the reality of what's happening. And instead, this whole thing is just going to blow up. We are in for some wild times coming forward. I don't even want to. I can ask. I don't know if I'm really going to get an answer because I don't know if the answer's been figured out yet. Now, how do we land on our feet with this? I'll ask. How does this get resolved? I don't know if I'll be able to. Honestly, I think the biggest concern I have is I don't think I'll be able to interpret this. But Spirit, how are we going to land on our feet? How is this going to resolve? Good luck. I don't want to read this spread. I don't think I've got the confidence to do it. Let's see. Just a 4-carder. Somebody new is going to come in. Okay, that at least made it easier. Something new is going to come in. And I think the oligarchs the money that's coming in here is going to have somebody new be brought in. Interesting. They're going to try and calm things down. Yeah. It's like the new person comes in with their ideals, on the Epstein thing, but there's like the oligarchs want him. They need him to calm things down and give people hope of the future. But there's also kind of like this waiting here. It's like we have. I'm just gonna throw this out there. It's like we have two presidents. We've got JD Vance being announced as like the president of the United States. But the problem is Trump's overseas claiming that he's the president of the United States. And now we have to figure out a way to integrate these things. It's like, well, 25th Amendment, Donald Trump is still the president. He's just not running things right now. But he's going to be overseas recuperating while JD Vance runs things. It might be something like that. Instead of removing Trump from office, it's like they declare, it would be like if Trump had to undergo surgery. And let's say he wouldn't be able to execute the duties of the president of the United States. JD Vance would be put in there to execute the duties of the president of the United States. But Donald Trump could be reinstated at any time. But he's going to be out of the country recuperating while Vice President Vance acts as the president. Is that how? Vice President continues as the acting president. And maybe that's why some intuitives don't see JD Vance as being the president of the United States, because technically he never is. Technically he's the acting president. He's still the vice president. He just is the acting president. He does the presidential things. Donald Trump would still be the president, but he would be like a president in exile because he's out of the country. Therefore, if there's any fallout from the Epstein files that would result in litigation against him, the stink in the room, he's in a completely different room where he can't be gotten to because he's locked the doors. In other words, country with no extradition to shove him back. Congress could eventually remove him through impeachment. But the only way the impeachment happens is if the House of Representatives starts articles of impeachment against the president. And the president, right now, Congress is controlled by the Republicans. And they don't seem to have the stomach to impeach Trump. Which then would mean that in the 2026 elections, should the Democrats take over Congress, they would have the ability to impeach Trump. So like the 25th Amendment doesn't happen. Trump is still president, assuming he's still alive, by 2026. The Democrats institute impeachment proceedings. It goes to the Senate where a trial is held. And who knows what's going to happen then? Need 2/3 of the Senate. Trump's across the country, not in another country, not doing anything. It could happen that way. It would explain how JD doesn't become the acting president. And who knows? And Lord knows what else is going to come out that could implicate Trump and his cabinet on things. Certainly we'll have more information on election interference in the 2024 election, should the Rockland County case continue to proceed. Then you got the whole Epstein files and everybody associated with that. We know Trump's going to have his fingerprints are going to be all over that. What else did I want to touch on with that? There was one other point I wanted to hit, and I've lost it now. But yeah, I was gonna say, when I've done my readings, is Trump still around by the solstice? And I say no, it still aligns, because what it could very well be is the Epstein files comes out probably in November. All hell breaks loose. There's talk about the 25th Amendment. and Trump leaves to be a president in exile in a non-extraditional country. And they could go through the 25th Amendment, and Trump is still the president. No, he's still technically the president, and JD Vance continues as the acting president while Trump is away. Trump can't be prosecuted. He can't be brought back. JD Vance is the acting president. And then my reading saying Trump is kind of like politically, he has no influence in the U.S. He's just a troll shit posting on Truth Social from another country, and he doesn't actually have any influence on Congress because they don't need to deal with him anymore. They're just dealing with Vance. And at the same time, there's enough loyalty to Trump that they won't impeach him. They'll make the Democrats do that and then try to use that as a political cudgel in the 2028 elections. I'm not clever enough to think this stuff up. I'm such a simple person. I'm such a simple orc. This is a whole lot of conjecture and plotting and planning and ugh. I eat to live. I don't live to eat. My wife is a live to eater. She loves food. She loves high quality food with nuanced flavors. Me, I'm like a black lab. Show me a garbage can that I could hook up to and feed trough of, and I'm perfectly happy. Garbage food is fine. Oh, God. Oh, I speak so highly of myself. Anyways, no, I don't like all this. What a waste of energy. Why not just be simple? Simple and straightforward. It works really well. Tell the truth all the time. You don't have to remember the lies. It makes life really, really easy. I like easy. Anyways, thank you very much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Give a like, comment, do all the YouTube-y things. Join me and Shauna on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. I'm taking next week off as a vacation from work. It's a staycation. I'll be doing errands and such. But I'm also going to be doing a live. So join us for that Tuesday, 1 o'clock Pacific time, November 4th. Okay? Thank you again. I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.